Welcome to GlobeWatch with me, Charles Ebune. Troubled in a troubled land, struggling to put away a troubled past, Sierra Leone, the West African nation, had 10 years of a civil war and today is compounded by a terrible disease called Ebola. Plus 4,000 people have died in Sierra Leone out of a population of over 6 million people. In that number, more than 55% of the population is made up of young people. Sierra Leone has embarked on a huge population policy of empowering the young people. My guest today on GlobeWatch is President Ernest Bai Koroma's senior government official in charge of youth affairs. Are Sierra Leonean people in particular and the young aware of the dangers of Ebola and how the government is struggling to make their lot better? The Sierra Leonean Minister for Youth Affairs, Alimamy Kamara, welcome to GlobeWatch.
Thank you, my brother.
Plus 60% of Sierra Leone's unicameral 124 chamber house is made up of young people. Almost half of the cabinet and other top government positions are handled by young people. Sierra Leone has invested so much on its younger generation. Why?
Well, it has to do with, in the first place, we are grateful to the Almighty God for giving us a leader who believes in the young people. That is His Excellency President Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma. He believes in young people when it comes to harnessing their potentials to drive the force of development in the nation as a whole. And you could also recall in our post-war era, we had a TRC, a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and it was recommended, given the observations, that part of the troubles that led to the war has to do with marginalization of young people. So it was recommended that at least 10% in terms of representation in governance should be accorded to young people. That plus, like I said, the belief of the president and the entire nation that we have to move forward given our challenges, our immediate challenges in the past. And to do that, the young people have a cardinal role to play. This is why you see all over the country, in all senior positions, from cabinet, parliaments,
the judiciary,
you come to the local administration, local government, parastatals, all over. And very recently, in making his State of the Union address in Parliament, about 2 years ago, the president was so magnanimous to make a visionary statement, stating that he is ready to lay his life for the young people. And this statement is supported by the practical realities in terms of representation of young people everywhere in the country. I mean, everywhere. I think we are blessed to have a leader who believes that if our country is to move forward, the young people have to play a leading role.
Sure. You just made an allusion to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which had to conclude somehow that huge investments should be done on the Sierra Leonean youth. Just how much of the reconstruction process has been on driving youth policies in Sierra Leone?
In our post-war era, we came up with a youth policy. That is 2003. The then government established the National Youth Policy
of President Ahmed Tejan Kaba
of blessed memory. But that has to do with issues after the war. A lot of young people were demobilized, were trained to catch up with the realities at that time. As I speak, we have concluded, we've got the endorsement from Cabinet, and it has been laid in the House of Parliament, the revised youth policy to also catch up with emerging issues. We are no longer in an immediate post-war era. We are now in a development era, and therefore the young people must position themselves. You must have been following that we are one of the fastest growing economies in the world as a whole, and a leading economy in Africa, and we are involved in massive infrastructural development, road constructions, in terms of development in electricity, the human resource also, when you look at the effort we are making in education and all other areas we are taking up strides. And therefore, the young people must be positioned. So we are revising the policies. For instance, we are now having, policies like when you get university, admission or college level, if you are a female, you are doing the sciences, you don't pay. You go on scholarship. Young people with disabilities, they go on, scholarship. This is a gender-sensitive youth development program. Exactly. And at the secondary school level, we don't pay. The female young people are not paying, so as the disabled young people, they are not paying. In fact, 1 month ago, the president announced that because of the challenges we have with the Ebola, we are going to have a kind of 2 years, scholarship for all students in the country. So we are very much sensitive, because we believe if we are to continue our development drive, we have to invest in our people. And to do that is to pay attention to the young people. You follow also the mines. We are able to attract many multinationals, business conglomerates all over coming because of our friendly investment atmosphere. Sure, but Sierra Leone faces very huge economic challenges. About 40% of your revenues come from donors. How are you going to sustain that? Are you trying to diversify the economy today to get more sources of income to realize these huge projects you are talking about? That is exactly what we are doing. We are diversifying the economy. We've learned that you cannot depend on minerals alone. And of recent times also, if you have been following, we are doing very well in the iron ore mining. But you know the prices in the world market are not in favor of you. This is the reality. We have a forward-looking leader, a president who believes that the only way forward is to diversify the economy. There is also the talk about, the oil. Now look at what is happening. Though we are investing so that we can explore the oil we have in the country, but we see the downward trend in terms of prices. We see what is happening also to the iron ore and even the diamonds. So what we are doing, led by a visionary leader, is to ensure that we diversify the economy in agriculture, in tourism, in other areas. And to do that, you need to invest in the people. This is why we are paying special attention to the young people. We are, by March next month, we are going to ensure that we launch a program we call the Young Engineers Corps. We believe that if we are to continue development, we need to train young engineers. Right, we are going to do that. We also have our internship on professionals, and we are also going to get a pilot survey on the National Youth Service Scheme. Like I said, we've just laid our policy, which is very, very, very youth-friendly. Like in Cameroon here, we are going to observe what we call the Youth Development Week. We have not got it before, so that we can bring the young people together to showcase their potentials, what they are doing in their various areas, localities in the country. Also to give them an opportunity to bring them together so that they can better coexist, they can best understand themselves. We have the opportunity to imbibe in them issues of nationalism, patriotism, and for them to see reason, for them to see themselves as a driving force in terms of development. It seems to me that plus 10 years after the end of the Civil War, the government has embarked so much on strengthening youth capacities. Your country's population is about 6 million people. Exactly. How much of that is made up of the young people that you pay a lot of attention to them? Those within the age bracket of 15 to 35 is about 60%. It's about 60%. But we also have those below the age of 15 that also carry a reasonable number. So everything put together, we are about 70 to 75% in terms of young people, right? And you can see that if we are to go forward, then there is need for us to pay attention to that category because we are a young nation and with a young population, so the potentials are there. That is why we are investing so much in the young people. Though we have challenges like...
Sure. Mr. Minister, there are challenges, and one of them is a cross-Africa challenge, which has to do with conflicts in most African countries today. Sierra Leone seems to me to be a perfect model on disarming young people militia. What kind of advice can the Sierra Leonean government give to countries like the Central African Republic, where it is chaotic? You know that in the Central African Republic today, a bottle of Coke a grenade is cheaper than a bottle of Coke. But Sierra Leone succeeded to disarm all these militias, taking guns from the young people, you know, of the anti-Balaka, the Balakas and the Selekas in the Central African Republic. How did you succeed in that, and how can other African countries copy from you?
Well, it has to do with our resolve. We are resilient people. When it comes to taking national resolutions, we are very much strong. We accepted the situation. We went to a civil war. We accepted the reality. It came to a point we realized that enough is enough. We have to come together. The young, the old, everybody came together, and we ended the war. Then we also accept that we have to move forward. But that has to do also with the leadership. By then we have President Ahmed Tijan Kamara, who is also a God-fearing leader. He was very much open, bringing everybody on board. You should, not only mitigate, but stop or halt entirely anything that has to do with discriminating any set of group within the population ranks in the country. This is what we did. And we invested in democracy. We realized that you have to give the political space to people for them to come out and hear out their views. We have a very strong civil society. We allow these people, our journalists, you must have been following, we allow them. Everybody takes his or her own space in the development platform in the country. So it's all a matter of openness, bringing people together, avoiding anything that will phantom or will continue to create segregation. Once you are open, you work together. We are 6 million people. We learned from our mistakes, and we resolved that we should move forward. This is where I think we were very successful. It was very clear even when His Excellency, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, went to close the operations of UNOMSIL. He was very clear that we are a very good model. So these are some of the things. Yeah,
because the United Nations sent troops amounting to about 17,000 in Sierra Leone to bring an end to the chaos.
Yes. But at the end, we cooperated with them. They were very much pleased with us, and we are moving forward in terms of democracy. Look at the accolades we are receiving from the Mo Ibrahim Index and all other democratic institutions, the world all over. We open up the space, the political space. People come up. When it comes to religion, we are the most tolerant people in terms of religion. The whole world, I can assure you, we do have problems with religion. What we realize and we now resolve to look at is the issue of how we halt or alleviate poverty. Okay. And to do that, this is why we are investing in our population, especially the young people, in their education, in all that they need to do. Like when we are confronted with the Ebola, we also realize challenges in terms of health sector. So we are now investing on young people. We are investing on our medical people.
You just talked about Ebola, which is very topical in West Africa and in Sierra Leone in particular. You know very much that your country is the most hard hit by this outbreak, claiming the lives of plus 4,000 people in Sierra Leone alone. Just how much has Ebola damaged Sierra Leone's efforts to progress?
Well, I cannot quantify it, but I will tell you for free that is a very challenging situation to us as a people, as a nation.
How much of it has been affected by the economy, by budgeting, we saw how the Liberian, the Sierra Leonean, and the Guinean health system were exposed as extremely very weak. Yes,
very, very weak. It affected our economy, I mean, immensely.
Has the GDP been brought down?
Yes. We anticipated a growth rate of 11%. You know, we are, I mean, moving forward.
Yes.
But because of the Ebola, we are now talking about 2, 3, 4%. So that in itself speaks volumes, that you can see that we are now going downward in terms of our growth rate. And when you also look at even the morale and even the psyche of the people. Ebola is short a contagious disease that took us as a surprise. We are not expecting it. It did not start to us. But we are all Africans. We belong to a family. It started from our brothers and sisters in the neighboring countries. And we were not well ready for it. So it took us on a surprise. So there were many challenges. How to handle it? Our medical personnel, we are not trained to handle contagious diseases like Ebola.
Sierra Leone is not vigilant enough when it comes to its borders and controls.
Well, the issue of being vigilant, you understand, my brother, we are here in Cameroon on Commonwealth program. So at that level, we are a family, right? And also the African region, we have a family, the AU. Down, we have the ECOWAS. Then beyond ECOWAS, we have the MRU.
Yeah.
When you come to look at it, countries like Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, we are all brothers and sisters. Right? There are countries, all these 4 countries put together, there are countries that are bigger than all of us put together. So you can see that the issue of controlling borders is sometimes challenging. You talk about, like we have in Guinea, Liberia, there is an area where this whole thing started, the Makona area, where you have the same people. Kizis on one hand in Sierra Leone, another hand in Liberia, and also in Guinea. How much of a control you will have to put on people who are together, they share common values, they are the same people. So we are a family, the MRU. And you could recall during our civil war, the role played by the Guineans. They were the first to come to our aid, followed by the Nigerians and other people. So you cannot say when there is a trouble in your brother's or your sister's compound, you come with ultimatums without even realizing, without even, I mean, observing or see how you can collaborate with the person. So it is not that we are not vigilant in terms of restricting people or movement in our border areas. It was just a kind of a virus or a situation that we are not prepared for.
Okay, let's remain with Ebola. Your country is culturally a diverse one. You have the Teme, you have the Mande, you have Muslims, you have Christians in your country. It is reported worldwide that most West Africans don't believe that Ebola is a disease, and that tradition has had a role to play here in the spread of the disease. Why are some of your citizens so reluctant to accept modern medicines in the treatment of Ebola, and they refer to traditional doctors, and that is how the disease is spreading? Yes, the education has not been enough, Mr. Minister.
No, again, like I said, it has its roots or its basis on the fact that the disease is alien, right? And here in Cameroon, you have your culture and you have your tradition. So are we also in the MRU? We have our culture, we have our tradition.
And one of the cultures is to believe that a disease does not exist, that it comes from the white man's country?
No, that is not the case. The question of belief, yes, it is a challenge. Like any other, I mean, like any other set of people. You know, the way the Ebola initially that we are thought of, it coming from Uganda,
the Democratic Republic of Congo, 1976.
When it started at the MRE, it was different. It's not this kind of profuse bleeding, all. So it came up with different symptoms. And I mean, the Ebola scenario in the DRC was kind of contained in the forested areas. It started in our sister country in the forest area. But like I said, because of the border, Liberia, Sierra Leone, in the east part of our country, I mean, there we had the first case of Ebola. So for the people to accept, you have other diseases that are similar. You have cholera, right? You have malaria. right? So for people to accept, it was not easy. But, I mean, it was a challenge. But with time, the people came to realize that, I mean, it is indeed a virus.
Okay.
And we cannot do much but to ensure that we come together and practically fight the Ebola. And it is a kind of, it is not much of a medicine or something. To date, you must have been following, people are saying, oh, there is no curative medicine. So it's more of a social, menace than come to look at curative medicine.
Okay.
So the health sector was leading. It came to a point all of us have to come on board. And when you look at, like you said, the tradition, it was a very big challenge. Our people have their own tradition. What can you explain to the people to say when somebody is sick, you should not touch the person, your child is sick, you should not touch the person, your wife, your husband? I mean, this is not African. This is not part of us. So it poses a lot of challenge.
The country faces the problem of adaptability.
Exactly. Like any other place, it will happen even in America. Even when the Ebola struck in America, there were challenges, my brother. We are used to love one another, caring for the sick, caring for the other.
So the quarantine policies are very counterproductive.
Very challenging.
Okay,
but we got to a point our people accepted because they also need that this is what we have to put
Mr. Minister, let's talk another area of the economy. You just said that you have a visionary leader who is determined to spread the economy and make it more dynamic. Your neighbor, the Gambia, is a leader in the tourism industry, and I know that Sierra Leone has huge potentials in the tourism sector. What are you doing to tap more revenues from the sector to contribute in the development of your country?
Again, we have been moving frantically to develop that aspect of our economy, tourism. But the Ebola struck, and again, it poses a challenge. But before now,
let's talk the post-Ebola Sierra Leone in the tourism industry.
In the tourism industry, we are working very hard. We have identified tourism as one of the sectors that we have potentials to grow our economy and to develop in general. So we are putting modalities in place. We are now constructing and reconstructing our hotels. We are also constructing our very important touristic sites in the country, those historical ones, our parks. So in the post-Ebola era, we are going to ensure that we attract as many tourists as possible by doing those things that we are expected to do as we are doing them now. We have leading hotels like Radisson Blu is now operating, working on Hilton. They are also working on establishing at a 5-star hotel. And we are also working very hard in terms of conservation of the environment because we have very good parks. We have the Clement Park in Bombali in the north, a very big park. We also have one in the east. And we have our very nice historic touristic centers. We are working on them. A
lot of good talk from your mouth, but you know, each time somebody across the world picks up Sierra Leone, the map of Sierra Leone and looks at it, says, after reading a lot, concludes poverty and unemployment. You have been talking a lot of good projects. Mm-hmm. That is a major challenge your country is unable to solve.
Like any other place in the world, issues of unemployment are all over the world. You go to England, you see people in the street begging for food. You go to America, you see them coming up with policies on welfare policies to help people, right? For them to get the basics. Everywhere in the world, it is not just an issue of Sierra Leone. You have unemployment issues. But what is now, making Sierra Leone different is our resolve to move forward with the development, which was not there before. Before now, it was like, oh, Sierra Leone is the least developed country. It is no longer the case. It is the country where women die giving birth in terms of mortality, high mortality rate. That is no longer the case. Mm-hmm. So you can see that because of the resolution, we learned our lessons from the Civil War. Like we are also learning lessons from the Ebola. So this is why you see we are now talking tough, because you go all over, you just, highlighted what is being said about us. From the World Bank, you heard what the President of America said about us, the President of England, all over the world, the Chinese, everybody is acclaiming us because of what we are doing.
You just acknowledged the role of the Nigerians in solving your problems when you were in the Civil War.
Certainly.
You know how challenged Nigeria is today when it comes to the Boko Haram affair.
Yes.
Are you going to send soldiers voluntarily to put an end to this issue in Nigeria, or you have heard of a multinational force which will be created, made up of about 870 troops, military, civilian, and the police, as an element of African solidarity, with Sierra Leone becoming on board?
When you follow the geopolitics in the sub-region, you can see that Nigeria and Sierra Leone is just because of the geographical setting. We are almost one and the same. We see them as big brothers. And whenever we have challenging issues back home, they are always there, taking the leading role to ensure that, they get it at our back.
Will you come on board on the side of Nigeria?
So on the issue of the Ebola, it is not an issue of Sierra Leone coming on board.
I'm talking
naturally,
about Boko Haram.
Yes, with Boko Haram. Naturally, Nigeria and Sierra Leone are one and the same people. We are following closely. We are very much concerned. If you have been following the news, our women, when the Boko Haram captured the 200 young girls, our female activists back home, went to solidarity with the Nigerian people. It was on the BBC, all over. We worked with them. We are very much concerned, and we are pleased, like a regional statesman, like His Excellency President Paul Biya, is working with the Nigerian government, and other big powers in the Africa region are working with the Nigerian government, seeing the need that this Boko Haram thing should be put to a halt, because it is not African, and we are very much concerned. Whatever that is required to be done at the African region, for us, Nigeria and Sierra Leone, is one and the same. We are ready to work with them, but it is a policy at the highest level. But I think I am obliged to say this in the sense I believe, I know our fraternity, I know our closeness, we are the same people. If it is the desire of the President of Nigeria to get a battalion of, military guys from Sierra Leone, I believe and I know His Excellency President Dr. Anes Bekruma, his brother and friend, will come, because they have been there. But we are very, very happy because of the role the Cameroonians are playing, the role the Niger people are playing. This is very cardinal because they are close, they are the same people, they share common borders. I think this is what we need as African people.
The Sierra Leone Minister for Youth Affairs, Alimamy Kamara, thanks very much for accepting our invitation on GlobeWatch.
Yes, no, we should not shake hands, but this is Cameroon. I can assure you we are Ebola free, we are not even.
You're welcome.
Thank you, my brother. You're still blessed.
You're welcome.
Yes, yeah.